Aloha, everyone. Welcome. Today we'll be exploring the intersection between the breath and the deep core. And I think this is going to be really soothing while simultaneously being strengthening and helping us release a lot of our peripheral muscles that get tight in the neck, and the shoulders, the low back, and our deep muscles in the hips. So with that, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to start with some pranayama so that we can get to know our diaphragm a little bit better before we practice. You all look like you're sitting beautifully, but if you need to grab pillow, blanket, anything to be as comfortable as possible, please do so. And I'll let you know when to hit play on the first track, but let's do our pranayama in silence or whatever ambient noises are happening in your environment. And take your time finding your seat, but when you're there, gaze at a single point or close the eyes. And just start to connect with your breath flow. And try not to judge it. It's okay if it's shallow, if it's erratic. We're all coming from different times of day, different jobs, and just be with yourself for a moment wherever you're at. And maybe you can even start to sense what's happening internally in the lungs and the abdominal cavity. And I just want to give you a little visualization in case this helps you feel more. So flicker the eyes open if you've shut them. The diaphragm muscle is kind of like this shape. It's gently curved. It connects underneath the rib cage, filling the whole top of the abdominal cavity and connecting all the way back into the back of the rib cage and around the spine. And when we inhale, it pushes down. And when we exhale, it rises up in a dome shape. And feel free to even do this with your hands. It can kind of help you tune in to what the diaphragm's doing and sync it with your breath. So as you inhale, push the hands down and imagine the bottom of the lungs expanding and reaching downward. And as you exhale, let the hands lift and imagine that dome lifting up to fill the bottom space of the rib cage. And continue on your own. And it's okay if you can't actually feel this happening, but maybe you can just visualize it for now or start to bring your awareness to that kind of nebulous space in the center of the body. And something extra I want you to start to pay attention to that might become interesting throughout our class today is as you exhale and the diaphragm lifts, it actually starts to pull up on the psoas muscle, on the deep hip flexor. So maybe you can feel as you exhale and you're not even moving, a little sensation changing in the front of the hips. So for the last couple of these visualizations, just notice any sense of exhaling, whatever tightness naturally happens without force in the abdominal cavity, and that little lift in the front of the hips. Is anyone feeling that? I'm just curious. Give me, yes, awesome. Doing yoga with yoga teachers is so exciting. And doing yoga with everyone, whoever's here, you're welcome and I love you. And then release the hands. Take a couple of breaths to be with that. And then we'll wake up the diaphragm a little bit more with the two-part diaphragmatic breath. So the way this works is you'll exhale and you'll draw the navel in and you'll keep it in. And then your inhale will be divided into two parts. The first half, you'll breathe just into your lungs, keeping your belly tight. And then the second half, you'll relax the belly completely, allowing the belly to fill or allowing the lungs to fill completely. So let's start by just noticing what it's like to fill just the rib cage. Exhale, pull the navel in, bring your hands to your rib cage, and as you inhale, start to feel the ribs expanding like an accordion to the left and the right. And take a couple breaths like that and notice if the contraction in the abdomen allows you to fill a little more fully into the bottom of the rib cage. We don't actually ever want to breathe like this, but it's a great way to strengthen the diaphragm temporarily. And then for the whole part of the breath, we'll start from scratch. Take your natural breath in when it arrives. And then exhale, slowly start to pull the navel in to meet the spine. Keep it there. And now the breath is in two parts. Inhale first half into the rib cage. And then the second half, let the belly fill. It's almost like a vacuum. You might feel the diaphragm suck downward, allowing more breath to fill the ribs. Exhale, navel in. First half of the inhale to the ribs. Second half to the belly. You can use your hands for feedback. Exhale, navel in. Last one together, and then I'll let you do it on your own. Keep the navel in. Take half the breath to the ribs. Half the breath to the belly. And then exhale. Allow the navel to pull in. Keep using the hands for feedback if that helps you direct the breath to the correct area. You can release them whenever you'd like. Continue with your own breath, allowing the exhale to help you find that contraction. And then the first half of the inhale, you keep it and notice what that does for the rib cage, feeling that full expansion from the bottom of the ribs all the way up. And then as you let the belly relax, notice what it feels like to allow the diaphragm to drop, letting the lungs fill more fully and completely. I know most of you have done this before, so if you feel comfortable, try to pay attention to the sensation in the diaphragm. When the navel's in, the diaphragm has to work harder to push down. So you might feel that sense of resistance, or almost like your breath is slower because it's harder to breathe. And then when the belly expands, it's almost like your diaphragm's like a trampoline and someone just like jumped on it and it pushes down, and there's almost that effortless influx of breath. We'll just take a couple more. And release the breath, or the control of the breath rather, and breathe naturally. And notice if you're starting to build a little more awareness of this very deep part of our core, essential part of breathing and even walking. And then gently come away from any props. Hit play on your first track. Slowly paw your hands over to the right. I'm not mirrored, right? Okay. I might flip, we'll see in one moment. And then make your way. Okay. Onto, oh, actually, just kidding. We're not doing that yet. But beautiful tabletops. Just come to the side. So sitting off to the right side of the legs, and paw out the mat with the hands, just saying hello to the wrists and the shoulders. Be really soft here because it is a gentle twist, and that might be a lot. So the hands can even come forward a little bit if it feels like too much in the low back. And Mary, your room's really dark, which is awesome. I want you to feel restorative and relaxed, but feel free to turn on a light if you want me to see you. Totally up to you. And then play with coming on to the fingertips and then lowering the wrists. And do this a couple of times and just notice what awakens in the arms in a little subtler way. And then next time you're on your fingertips, gently start to spiral towards the right from the bottom up, letting the spine lengthen as you take a gentle twist in Bharadvajasana. Take a couple of breaths and witness the diaphragm dropping down, massaging the abdominal cavity. Maybe it feels different as you're twisting. And then paw the hands slightly to the left so that you can start to reach the right arm out, laying down. You hopefully are the edge of the yoga mat that's a little closer to me. And let's take some nice side body rocks. The legs can do whatever's comfortable. So if you want to stretch them out a little bit, that's nice, especially if you've been sitting a lot today. Yeah, that looks better. It felt like a relief for me when I stretched my legs out a little. And just start to roll the body forward and back, massaging out the whole right side, letting everything soften and make any adjustments if something feels tight in the shoulder and the neck. And see if you can continue to tune into the breath, even while you're getting all these really lovely sensations in the superficial muscles. And then bring the heels in line with the knees, and the thigh bones will be roughly at like a 45 degree or like 135 degree angle with your torso. Sorry if you're not into geometry. That's a tough one. Let's see, 90 is too short. Okay, everyone knows 90, so go 45 degrees beyond 90. And keep the pelvis where it is. Touch your hands to the pelvis and very gently start to lift the knee, keeping the feet together. Take a couple of these clamshells just to fire up the glute a little bit. You don't have to think about it, but if you want to witness it happening, you can bring your hand to the back of your hip. Just make sure that the pelvis itself's not moving. You might feel just that gentle brightening below the surface. It's not even the surface gluteal muscle, so it's really subtle. And try to get out of the mindset of wanting to lift very high here. And the next time the knee lifts, gently flex the top foot and kick out through the heel. Slowly lower the leg down and then lift the leg up just a couple of times. Again, don't worry about going very high. And each time the leg lowers, have this sense of the inner thighs ever so gently connecting and lifting towards the pelvic floor. The next time the leg lowers, bend the knee, gently start to push into the hands, coming back up to our Bharadvajasana, and then kick the legs out and sit for a moment in Dandasana. And this, if this feels tight or intense, lean back a little on the fingertips. Take a couple of breaths. Notice the difference between sides. You can wiggle your tailbone out a little bit. This is sort of an unexpected nice calf and glute massage as my heels slide forward and back. And then we'll go the other way. So bend the knees, gently let them lower to the left, tuck the feet in any amount that's comfortable, and play with coming up onto the fingertips and then lowering the wrists. Let the hands be at whatever angle is most comfortable for the hip and the back. So the further back the hands come, the deeper the twist, right? So be kind, be gentle here. The hands can move, they can explore. And then play with lifting onto the fingertips as you exhale. And notice if there's any sense of that deeper core stability emanating from your center, allowing you to balance a little better. And the next time you come onto the fingertips, pause, wait for your next exhale, and then gently start to walk the hands over to the left, deepening your twist. Try to feel the spiral from the bottom all the way up, lengthening as you twist. You can even play with drawing the left shoulder blade back slightly in space and allowing the right ear to reach forward. And then slowly come out of the twist. Let the left arm slide long, maybe even off of the mat, resting on the side for a moment. And then readjust which way the knees are pointing so that you get a little space in the front of the hips. Before you begin moving, connect with your breath. Maybe even visualize your diaphragm pulling up as you exhale, getting a little relief in the front of those hips. And then gently start to roll from side to side. I am going to try to cue the breath a lot in today's class, especially the exhale as the diaphragm lifts and starts to pull on the top of the psoas. And I always want you to breathe at your own pace. So it's going to be kind of tough, but when I say exhale, do this, wait until your next exhale. Don't just force the exhale. Pause on the side, come to stillness, notice your next breath. And then just for math purposes, find your 90-degree angle and then go another 45 degrees so the heels come in line with the hips. Begin with hands on the hips so that you can keep them steady. Gently lift the top knee, keep the feet together. Take a couple of those. The reason we don't want the pelvis to move is if the pelvis is moving, we're overcompensating with other muscles. So less is really more here. And then if you enjoyed having more awareness of the glutes, you can bring your hand to the back of the hips. And it's not the most superficial muscle engaging, so you might not feel the muscle tighten right under your fingers, but hopefully there's a sense of that deeper muscle gently brightening without gripping, without tension. And the next time the knee lifts, slowly kick out through the heel. Notice the support through the back of the leg, the calf and the hamstring, and then slowly lower and lift a couple of times. Less is more. And each time the leg lowers, just notice the relationship between the legs and maybe even what's happening in the pelvic floor. Make sure you're breathing. And the next time the leg lowers, bend the knees, slowly push yourself back up to Bharadvajasana. Take your time. Kick your mermaid tail forward, resting the sits bones down, and start to bounce from side to side. Let the arms be really springy. There should be no tension in the neck and shoulders. Come on to the pinky side of the hand and notice if that helps wake up the tricep a little more. Oh, I love it. People are getting really fun with the other arm. Yeah, let it be natural. Take a few breaths here. And then notice if there's a craving arising for a little bit more. Right? If there is, let yourself twist with both hands and then spring up and then twist with both hands. You don't want to feel any pressure in the low back, so let the whole body rotate with you. And the next time you twist over to the right, pause there. Let's all do a little push-up, but be really springy. And then allow the left leg to swing back a little bit. And then bounce up through center and go to the other side, letting the other leg swing. I find that this takes, this just feels a little more natural to me, letting the top leg travel with you. Nice. I wasn't planning on us being mermaids, but I really see you all with like these awesome mermaid tails like flicking in the air. The next time you come over to the right, pause there, lower onto the right forearm. Extend the top leg out. You can rest it down if that leg's getting tired, and just take a nice long side body stretch. Push down into the right arm so there's a lot of space in the neck and the shoulder. Take a couple of breaths. And then gently kick the left foot down and notice the muscles in the inner thighs gently engage as you do that. See if you can draw that energy up through the pelvic floor. As you breathe, notice how that energy interacts with the diaphragm. And then stack the legs, slowly come to center, and we'll go the other way. And actually, just for fun, let's take a few from side to side, and then we'll pause towards the left. Whenever you're ready to pause on the left forearm comes down, the right leg extends, right foot sets down, and then lengthen through the right side. And have this sense of the right side unfolding. Check in with the left hip. You don't want it to be too intense of a twist, but we are going to be doing some twists today, so it's nice to warm up our spiral line. Make sure you're breathing fully. And then ever so gently push the right foot down. And notice what engages in the left thigh. Maybe you can feel how the thighs interact with one another, and naturally let that energy draw up to lengthen the spine. Our true core starts at the arch of the foot. It travels up the inner leg line, connects to the pelvic floor, psoas, diaphragm, all the way to our tongue. On your next exhale, you can even push your tongue into the roof of your mouth and notice how that feels. Okay. Lower the hands to your push-up. Pull the knees in and very slowly push into the hands. Let the knees come underneath you for tabletop. All right. Tuck the feet under and start to circle the weight around the heels. We're going to be doing some lunges later, and it's really helpful for the feet to be nice and warm. So if it's comfortable, paw the hands closer in towards the knees and bring the hips even further back, just letting the feet stretch. If that's too intense, come forward more and just keep circling. Make sure you're breathing. And then if it's comfortable, come to seated on the heels. If that's too intense, rock the weight forward, but keep the feet tucked under. Take a couple of breaths wherever you are. And then let's all meet in table. Keep the toes tucked under. Come onto the fingertips and then lower the wrists. And do that a couple of times. And start to sync it with the breath. So you're exhaling to lift the wrists. And notice if you start to feel any support of the core as you do that. The next time you exhale, pause on the fingertips. And we'll slowly roll up to standing on our knees, but we'll only move on the exhale. So on your next exhale, roll up a little bit. Pause as you inhale. And then exhale, roll up a little more. And take your time. And try to feel how the exhale is providing this sense of support and stability so there's no strain in the low back. And there's an evenness and a smoothness when you move. We'll all meet at kneeling and take some nice shoulder circles and imagine the shoulder connected to the heart. So as it reaches back, the whole chest gently spirals from side to side. Maybe you can even feel that spiral traveling all the way down to the legs, allowing the hips to gently pivot from side to side. And then turn to face me, but stay kneeling. We're doing a few kneeling things. So if you got sensitive knees, great time to grab a blanket. It'll be worth it. If you don't have sensitive knees, just grab a drink of water while we're waiting. Cushioning and hydration are all very important. I'll be a good influence, actually. I don't have sensitive knees, and sometimes I do this and I'm like, oh yeah, this just feels good. So paw out the, Mel, turn so that we're facing each other. Unless you don't want to, then don't do it. So shift the weight from side to side, letting the knees come underneath the hips. Tuck the toes under as long as that's comfortable. And then the next time the weight shifts into the right, step the left foot out. Beautiful. Whenever I say that, everyone does it perfectly, so I'm not even going to give you more information because you just did it really well. Inch the foot out just a little bit at the angle that it's pointed and start to come into a knee bend. And then come out of it 2 inches and notice the sensation of the thighs drawing up into the pelvic floor. Keep all of that engaged as you take a few bounces here. You never want any pressure in the knee, so make sure you're pushing down into the heel, but try to feel the sense of drawing in and up and being really light and supported. These are the deep core muscles that I've been alluding to. You can bring your hands into it, letting them push down each time you rise up, and we'll connect this to the breath. And so each time you exhale, push down and let everything float and become weightless for a moment. And then you'll inhale to release. Move nice and slowly at your own pace. Keep checking in with the knee. And the next time you come into the movement, pause there and notice the angle of the right leg and let the body and the arms follow that angle. So it's not super steep. Yeah, great job. Oh, nice adjustment. That looks really strong, Angeli. And then if you want to come further, you can inch the foot out a little bit and then keep reaching, but the body can only tilt more if the back thigh tilts more. Push into the left heel and let the back of the left hip engage to support you. And then kick into the foot, floating up, turn the toes forward for just a moment. Take a breath here, and now diagonal the other way. Make sure the low back feels okay with that. Yeah, let the movement come from lower in your body, Sithara. Nice, yes, you got it, that's beautiful. Take a breath here. And then we'll play with that a couple of times. So toes turn out, diagonal to the left. Float back up, diagonal to the right. And then continue on your own. Make sure you're breathing. Don't worry about going far to one side. Instead, actually try to feel as tall and long as possible. But start to notice the interaction between the core and the movement of the left leg. And the next time you're reaching out to the right, pause there and look down at the left foot. Anchor the big toe and try to seal the outer edge of the left foot down so that arch lifts, and see if you can feel that energy rising up the inner thigh, allowing you to reach out in this like sort of anti-gravity pose. You guys look amazing. I hope you feel amazing. That's more important. Slowly come up, turn the toes out one more time. Release the arms down. Give a little shake, however feels good. And then this is only if it feels good. Try bouncing into the knee, and if that's comfortable, keep adjusting. We're making our way to a lunge with the knee in front of us, but take a bunch of bounces to get there. If that's too much on your joints, then you can heel toe the knee in so that it's facing me and just a little bit wide because I like it that way. One breath here. That actually elevated my heart rate. I don't know if that did that. Yeah. And let's play with lifting the arms, and we're going to slowly come into a back bend with our exhale. So each exhale, lift and take your time just like we did with the forward fold. So you're only moving a little bit at a time. Notice how the exhale supports you as you lift. Shouldn't feel anything tightening in the low back. Just let the front body expand. And then release the hands inside of the foot. Allow the space between back knee and heel to separate if you feel like your hips need some more space here. Yeah, let's take some circles. I wasn't sure about it, but then Angeli started doing it, and I figured we should all do it. Be kind to your wrists here. Sometimes we get so into what's happening with our hips, we like forget we have hands. And then start to shift the weight into the right hand. Be gentle on that wrist, little extra weight on the pinky side and the meaty part of the hand. Bring the left hand to the thigh and push the left hand into the thigh, spiraling the heart to the left. And notice the muscles on the left side of the body that engage. And take a couple of breaths, allowing the diaphragm to interact with this constriction on the left side of the body. If you want to, you can play with lifting the back leg here, but you don't have to. If you are lifting the back leg, no, that would be crazy. Tucking the back toes and lifting the back knee. Everyone was like, how do you lift the back leg? Sorry guys, not as exciting as you thought. Option to lift the back knee. And if you're doing that, notice how the legs are connecting to one another and use that strength to lengthen the spine. And then lower the back leg if it was flying behind you magically. Slowly roll up and take a couple of twists to the left. We're going to be playing with some Atlas twists later, and that's when the back knee is lifted. So just start to explore this movement and try to feel how you're twisting up and away from the right knee. Right? Can you feel the muscles engaging in the right leg to support you and almost counter this twist? That's going to be really important when the back knee is lifted. And the next time you twist, pause there, inch the left foot forward and to the left just a little bit, and bend the left knee so you get a little bit of spring in the leg as you twist, and take a couple of those little springs. And then bring the leg back underneath you and pause for a moment at center and notice the sensations through the left side of the body. Take a couple of breaths. And we'll play with that on the second side. So shift the weight into the left knee. Step the right foot out perfectly, just like you did before. And just like you did again. Excellent job, everyone. Anchor the big toe. Actually, inch it out a little bit, then anchor the big toe. Keep the pressure in the heel as you bend the knee. And then come out just an inch, letting everything engage. Keep that all engaged as you go into your bounces. And then you can add on the arms. The arms push down as you float up. And then try adding the breath. So exhaling into it and inhaling to float. I really enjoy exhaling into it because on the exhale, the diaphragm's lifting. It's pulling on the psoas, and it helps get more of a stretch here, but it also helps you like support and connect to everything so you're not overdoing it. And the next time you come into it, pause. Notice the angle of your leg. Let your body follow. Reach the arms out. Take a couple of breaths. Though it's subtle, this does take some core effort. And then kick in. Option to go a little bit further by inching the foot out, making sure everything stays connected, and then the angle changes. And then kick into the leg, straighten it, toes turn forward, reach the other way, and take a breath. And then we'll play with those two movements. And once you get the hang of it, you can even close the eyes. It's sort of tricky with balance, but for proprioception, I want you to really try to feel this sense of continuity between the thigh bone and the core and the torso and the arms. You can really feel how everything is working together. And the next time you go long, pause there, take a couple of breaths, tune into the right foot, and just know, yeah, right, it's like, oh, what I have a foot? Let the arch lift, Anchor down the pinky side and then push down into the left knee to slowly rise up. Turn the toes out again. Release the arms down. Shake it. Do whatever feels good to release. Maybe that stillness. No, I'm always going to have you guys do a little dance. That was fun. Take your bounces or your heel toe action, and we'll slowly make our way to the lunge. But yeah, be as springy as you can. And each time the leg lifts, try to feel the sense of the legs uniting and pulling up into the core and supporting the spine. And then we'll meet with the right foot in front. Release the hands down and make any adjustments with knee and foot. Take your circles with the hips. Circle the other way. And then soft hands, bring a little extra pressure into the left hand, especially the horseshoe from the thumb to the pinky, right hand to thigh. Start to push down into the right hand, letting the right side of the body engage naturally. Breathe into that. Option to tuck back toes under and lift back knee. But if you're doing that, make sure you're pulling the back leg in and up so it's connecting to the right thigh bone via the pelvic floor. Let the spine lengthen. Maybe the twist increases a little. And then release the back knee down. We'll slowly come into our back bend, and you're only allowed to come up as you exhale. So next inhale comes in naturally, and as you exhale, shift the weight back, slowly rise up. Pause as you inhale, and as you exhale, keep going into your back bend. Keep the low back soft, and as the front of the body lengthens, notice what's happening in front of the left hip. And notice if as each exhale, as the diaphragm lifts, if you get a little more sensation on the front of that hip. And then slowly come to neutral. Bring the right knee underneath you. Pause for a moment at center. And then bring the hands to the low back. I'm going to turn just so you can see me. Gently squeeze the elbows together. Let the pelvis drop. So you don't want it rocked forward, right? You want it to neutralize. It's kind of like lifting your belly or letting your tailbone get really heavy. And then take your left arm and draw some big circles. If the left fingers easily come to the heel, it is fine to push down into the heel and lift the right hand, but it's never the goal. If you have done that, bring the other hand down, slowly rise to center, and we'll switch sides. So from both hands on the sacrum, now the right hand spirals back. Think more up and back, always getting longer with this movement. If the fingertips are getting close to the heel, it's fine to push down into the heel and lift the hand, other hand. And then left hand to low back and slowly float up. Move your prop off to the side, and actually let's all turn to the right. Walk the hands forward of the shoulders. And then stack the shoulders over the wrists. Hopefully your phone is nearby. Go to the next track. I think it's time. It's time for a little more energy. As long as we're doing things, you can have a sip of water. Ooh, that looks nice, Kayla. Feel free to take some springy tables if you're waiting for us. And then walk the hands forward so you're in a long table. Paw out the mat, bringing a little extra pressure into the pinky side, letting the arch of the hand gently float. On your next exhale, lift the knees, and then inhale, lower them down. Do this a few times, just noticing what wakes up as you exhale and the knees lift. The next time you're in plank, pause there and take a couple of breaths. Just like we played with letting our body be a continuation of our femur, try to feel the straight line from legs through to the core. Guys, look really, really good. Let the front of the hip open a little bit if you feel like the hips are lifted really high. And then bend the knees, but keep them hovering. Push into the hands, sending hips up and back. Take a couple of springs into the legs, sending your body forward to plank, and then bend the knees into like leapfrog down dog. You can breathe either way here. I'm enjoying exhaling into my plank, but do whatever you want. Just do it consciously. And the next time you're in down dog, sway the hips from side to side. Come back to center and spring forward one more time. Back to bent knee down dog, and then spring forward. Take your right leg with you. And bend the back knee, spring forward, take your left leg forward, meet in a forward fold, bend the knees deeply, nice. Let the body drape over the thighs. Shift the weight back into the heels. Try to feel the back line of the body connect as the pelvis drops down and you lengthen the lumbar vertebra. And then each exhale slowly brings you up. And once you arrive at the top, start to go for a walk around your space and notice the sensation in the hips. I've already done a lot of work for the psoas in really subtle ways, so keep breathing, keep bringing the awareness down, but notice if there's any sense of springiness, lightness as you walk. And then make your way back to your mat facing me, centered on the long edge of the mat. Okay, so a lot of times when we lift our foot, we use our hip flexor. We don't want to do that today. So we're going to do something called toe flicks. Kick into your left toe. It's sort of spazzy looking. Be a like, imagine you can't quite control what your leg is doing. And try to allow the leg to lift without using the hip flexor. So you're really like springing with the toes, almost like there's a little trampoline under the foot. And if you're not sure if you're doing it, bring your hands to your hip flexors and they literally should stay soft. And then go to the other side. Are you guys getting it? This took me a while and it was like frustrating. Be patient. Less is more. Maybe your toe flicks are like here. I would rather you keep your hip flexors totally soft as you do that. Now we're going to up the ante a little bit. So we'll be doing some sumo steps out to the side to get to our goddess pose, but I don't want you guys to do it with the hip flexors. So see if you can use those toe flicks to step the legs really wide. And, you know, depending on the stability and the strength in the hips, this might be really hard, so be compassionate. Pause at your straddle and turn the toes out. Start to sway from side to side. We never want any pressure in the knees and the ankles, so I'm going to tell you how to unload that pressure. Look down at the feet and notice if you have a tendency to collapse your arch here. Notice if there's a tendency for the knee to roll in. Try to play with rolling the ankles in and out. Keep the big toe down. Look at the feet and notice that nice middle ground where the arch gently lifts, the big toe stays anchored. And once you find that, just sway the hips from side to side. And if you want to, the feet can walk out a little bit more. You don't have to. Pause when you found that sweet spot. Everybody looks really good. Hands to a T. On your next exhale, push down into the heels and down into the hands to rise up just an inch, and try to feel the connection of arches lifting, inner thighs engaging, and pelvic floor gently drawing up, not because you're doing it, but just because your body is doing it. And then each inhale, little float down, and exhale to float up. Take some of these goddess pulses. If it ever feels like too much of a stretch, walk the feet in. Let this be a lot more for the core than for the hips. And the next time you're squatting down, slowly pivot the feet to the right. So the right toes face the short edge, the left heel drops out, and pause in Virabhadrasana 2. Push evenly into both feet. We're not actually going to move here, but gently push down into the hands just like you did in Goddess, and imagine the hips floating, right? Try to feel that sense of lightness through the spine. Take a couple of breaths, option to gaze over the right middle finger. Try to feel the inner thighs lifting towards the pelvic floor. And notice how your exhale can allow the hips to open. Not because they're moving, but just because the diaphragm's pulling up on the psoas. Okay, let the back foot get light and springy, kind of like the toe flick. Start to square the hips over to the right. Your stance is going to shorten a whole lot, so this feels really comfortable. And then pause, facing the short edge. Bend the back knee a little bit. Big bowl with the arms. Twist to the right. So twist into the front leg. Straighten both legs, lift the arms, and then on your next exhale, bend the knees and twist. Take a few pulses in Atlas twist. And the next time you sink down, pause there, breathe. I shouldn't have said sink down because I want you to actually feel buoyant and light here. One more breath. And then on your next exhale, sweep your arms all the way to the right, letting the toes pivot all the way to Virabhadrasana 2 on the other side. And it's going to be a really short Vir 2, and just be okay with that. Use the shortness to draw more energy up the spine. So all the way to the other side, Mel. Oh, so from here to, yeah, you got it. Pause for a moment. And Virabhadrasana 2 on the second side. Let the shoulders relax. Gaze over the left middle finger. And then let the back foot get light. Start to spring the right toes up, slowly squaring the hips, slowly bringing the foot in until you find a comfortable place. And the comfortable place is kind of like where the foot naturally goes to again and again. And then big bowl with the arms. Start to twist to your left this time. Inhale, straighten both legs, reach up. Exhale, bend the knees and twist a little bit more. Take a couple of pulses, and as you do this, give yourself permission to walk the left foot forward and to the left, whatever feels most comfortable in the hips. It's not about a deep twist, it's about feeling really light, feeling the legs connect and draw up. The next time you're in your twist, pause there. Breathe naturally, and on your next exhale, sweep the arms all the way to the right, back to our first Virabhadrasana 2. Yes, you got it. One pause here. And then let's turn the toes forward. Relax the arms down. And so look down at the feet. Let the outer edges of the feet get parallel, so the toes turn in just a little bit. Anchor the big toes. Gentle spiral with the thighs so you feel the glutes engage, and use that to lengthen the spine for a moment. Wide Tadasana. And then I'm turning just so you can see me here. Bend the knees. Keep the weight in the heels. Float the arms to a T. And on your next exhale, hinge forward, bringing your belly towards your inner thighs. Take a breath here, and then exhale, drape the body down. Rock forward and back a couple of times. Rock side to side, shifting the weight. Even though the weight's shifting, try to keep weight on the outer edges of both feet so the arches stay lifted and that energy can travel up the deep core all the way to the diaphragm. And cue a conscious breath. Send the weight back into the heels. Reach the hips back until you feel the glutes naturally engage. It's almost like they're catching you like a slingshot. Use your breath. Each exhale, slowly roll up. If you need extra support here, push the hands into the legs. Take your time. When you've arrived at the top, go for a little walk. And as you walk, try to feel how the legs are relating to one another. Try to feel a sense of drawing towards center and gently lifting. We just did a lot of hip opening, so think of this as an opportunity to keep everything connected. Don't walk into any walls, but you can walk through them. That's cool. And then make your way back to your mat. Paw out the feet underneath you, and then come to stillness. And as my deep core turns on, there's this sense of lifting through my center, and it really makes me feel like a suction cup where the edges of my body are like pressuring down and the center of my body is rising. So let's play with that visual for a moment. Anchor the outer edges of the feet down, anchor the big toe down, and imagine this lightness rising up the arches of the feet, the deepest part of the calf, the inner thighs, up to the pelvic floor, up past the psoas to the diaphragm. Gently press the tongue into the roof of the mouth. Imagine your whole body like that suction cup with the center light and buoyant and the outside strong and anchored. And we'll go through that sequence a little faster, just playing with Virabhadrasana 2 into our Atlas twist opening to the other side. I know it's a pretty simple sequence, so I want to give you guys the freedom to explore as you go into Vira 2. If you want to play with balancing a little bit, that's great. Same thing with Atlas twist. So we're going to have a little free exploration, but I'll cue you through it. Ooh, and that reminds me of one more thing I wanted to do before that. So from the perfect position that you're already in, we're going to do my favorite version of tree pose. Shift the weight into the left foot. Find your drishti, steady gaze point. Slowly let that suction of the deep core lift the right leg. Try doing it hands-free, right? We always just like grab. Nice, you guys are so strong. Bring the foot to wherever you can without your hands. If it's on your knee, if your leg feels really strong, that's fine. But if it feels like pressure outward, then you can adjust it. So just like those clamshells at the beginning, we're going to be using the right glute to gently peel the hips open. This is really subtle. Bend the left knee. The left leg is a pillar here that's not going to move, but as you gently tone the right glute, let the body face the right slightly. Okay, and then come back to center. So left leg stays where it is, and then it's just this gentle, almost engagement through the back of the body that peels the body open. I like bending my left knee a little extra as I do that. I'm going to turn to the side just in case that helps you. So pillar leg staying where it is, and then the lifted leg and the torso gently spiral so the hips open and the glutes tone. The next time you come out of it, lift the right knee, bring left hand to thigh, and just circle to the right a couple of times, letting the spine spiral. And then step the right foot out, taking a spring over to the right. Bend into the right knee, weight in the heel, no pressure in the knee allowed. And then push into the right foot, coming back. Woo! And then put the foot down, pause. Same thing, second side, shift the weight into the right foot. Slowly use the strength of your deep core to lift the left leg. The pelvis should stay level. Let the foot land wherever it comfortably can. Pause, arms to a soft T. Elbows are heavy, shoulder blades are heavy. Find your drishti. Bend the right knee, anchor down into right big toe and heel. And then as you exhale, play with allowing the pelvis to open to the left so the knee, the tree leg the left knee will point at a new direction, but the right leg will stay planted, which makes sense. You're a tree after all. Take a couple of these rotations. And if you're not sure the purpose of this, try doing it with a TheraBand, and then you'll really feel the work that is happening. It's a lot subtler without that extra effort. The next time you untwist, lift the left knee, right hand to thigh, make some circles. It's a nice counter, letting everything wrap around your center. And then step the left foot out, weight in the heels, take a couple of bounces. And then turn the left toes out, right heel out just a little bit. We'll start our sequence going this way first. So pause in Virabhadrasana 2. And then let the right foot get light. Bounce on the back toes. Starting to twist to the left. Get really springy. Try to feel both feet working equally here. So equal balance in both legs. And then when you're ready to untwist, exhale and circle your arms to the right, either pausing in Vira 2, maybe flying a little bit. Take your time, explore, and eventually set the left toes down, come into your twist to the right. And as you're twisting to the right, bring equal weight in both legs. You don't have to rush if you know the sequence. Just take your time playing with the Atlas twist and then unfurl into whatever shape you want. So first we did Vira 2, but now you can float, you can explore. You're in the matrix. See what you can unlock. And then eventually find your way into Atlas twist to the left. And use that almost as a moment of coiling up energy, and then you unfurl in the opposite direction and let that energy express itself. Maybe, I hope you don't know what you're going to do until it's happening. Make sure you're breathing. If you ever get lost, come back to our basics. Atlas into Vira 2. Let's take one more exploration to either side. And then after your Virabhadrasana 2 exploration pointed to the right, turn all 10 toes towards me. No rushing. Enjoy whatever you're doing. And pause and breathe and come back to that suction cup visualization. Feel the outer edges of the feet and the whole lateral line of the body pulling down. The whole inner volume of the body lifting up, getting lighter. Breathe. Yeah, that's awesome, Mel. Take some bounces if you're feeling very bouncy. You can enjoy it. I know I'm like, I haven't taken ballet, but I feel like I need to, so we can do some of this stuff. I'll study it. I'll come back to you guys with that. Well, let's take one last forward fold here. So turn the toes forward. Bend the knees, weight in the heels, and let's start with the flat back arms to T. Take a breath, and then exhale, drape the body down. Kick into one leg at a time, letting the whole body sway from side to side. If it feels okay, the next time you sway to the right, shake your head yes. And then kick into the right foot. Sway to the left, shake your head yes. Do that one more time, but try shaking your head no. And then slowly lower one knee at a time. Send your hips back to your heels and Sit on your heels for a moment. Sit to, I guess the first time we sat to the right, so we'll sit to the left just to balance it out. Take your nice easy twist to the left. And then untwist, kick your mermaid tail forward. Option this time to bend the knees and release the body forward. And then kick into the heels, rise up and twist the other way. And then if that felt good, we can play with that in a fluid way, kicking the legs forward, letting the body melt, and then kicking into the heels to slowly rise up and twist. And then if you ever want to pause in any of those movements, by all means, play with it. After you twist to the right next, we'll meet with our feet forward. And bring the soles of the feet together and gently press the big toes together and admire the natural arches of your feet. Take a couple of breaths and push the feet together, and as you do that, you might, the knees might float up a little. You might feel some muscles engaging in the inner thighs. That's what we actually want to happen. Relax as you inhale, and then exhale, squeeze feet, let those muscles gently engage, and use that energy to sit up a little taller. And then inhale, relax, and then exhale for the squeeze. If you want to add the arms in, the inhale can float the arms open as the legs relax, and the exhale, gently squeeze legs and hands. If you're a doozer, if you're someone who works too hard and pushes too hard, let this literally be like 1% of your effort, right? It's almost like a sensation of like the heart beating. You want it to be really gentle. But see if you can trace those pathways we've been working with from the arch of the foot up, inner thigh, along the spine, all the way to the tongue. And the next time, the legs gently lift and the hands push. Pause there. Release the hands to outside of the knees, gently pointing them upward, and wrap your arms around the legs, releasing forward, giving yourself a big hug. You can have the hands in front of the shins or behind, and just make sure your neck isn't craning too far. It's okay if your forehead's not coming towards the legs or anything. Gently sway from side to side. And then push down into the feet. Let that impulse travel up the legs and slowly stack your spine. If your music's still playing, you can pause it. Grab a sip of water. And we'll meditate and we'll have a really awesome Shavasana. If you need to grab a cushion, do that. Make yourself comfortable. All right, Julie feels strong. Oh no, or is asking a question, or is having an did that accidentally happen? I thought it, I don't have my glasses on, and I thought it was one of these emojis. It wasn't. Nice mood lighting, Mel. So take your time. I think the meditation seat is probably like our most advanced asana. So treat it as such, letting yourself adjust. And as you come to stillness, come back to that suction cup visualization and notice if you can feel in a real way the center of you just gently lifting upward, just gently rising. You can experiment a little without moving the legs, like squeezing them towards one another, and notice that sense of just getting a little lighter. One of our TTs in a recent training called this narrowing up. Let your body narrow up. And then see if you can maintain that lightness as you release the grip, right? You don't want to keep those muscles contracted. It's almost like a compass point. It shows you the direction, and then you walk in that direction. So let your body soften, but remember that energy of lifting. And if you feel comfortable, you can close the eyes or gaze softly at a single point. Today we explored finding buoyancy and springiness and really being able to float upward physically. And our meditation practice helps us do this energetically. And so imagine each time a thought, a daydream, a worry comes into your periphery, you just are able to float right above it. And you don't need to know how to do that. The mantra has all of the power. And so we'll use the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, our lineage mantra. And each time you repeat it, have that conviction that the mantra can energetically just float you above whatever is happening physically, mentally, emotionally. It's not a rejection. It's just giving yourself support and spaciousness. And so each breath, repeat the mantra and let it help you get lighter and more buoyant energetically. So I gave us a little extra time to get ready for Shavasana. I know a lot of you are in cold climates, so please grab a sweater, socks, hat, blanket, whatever will help you be really, really soothed and nourished. I highly recommend, actually I'm going to mandate, I'm going to mandate rolling up a blanket or just grabbing like a pillow, like it can even be like just a normal sleeping pillow from your bed, to put behind your knees. Any kind of blanket on top of you is great. And if you have sensitive joints or are prone to hyperextension, I recommend having a little lift in the hands. So like the tiniest cushion or little pillow or whatever underneath each hand, so the arms almost look like this, can be really soothing. So take your time getting what you need. Dimming the lights, maybe. Angela, you're next to your bed. You should just get in bed and then go to sleep. If anyone's on the East Coast, feel free to just do that and go right to bed. And as you find your way into Shavasana, and don't rush if you're still getting props for that. But take your time, just like with our meditation seat, making little adjustments, finding space in your joints, letting the feet be nice and wide. Lengthen the back of the neck, which means making a double chin and letting the occiput slide towards the edge of your yoga mat. Shoulder blades can gently walk down the back so that the heart is energetically more spacious. And begin by connecting to your breath. And eventually you don't have to do anything in Shavasana, but I just want you to notice as you breathe here, if it's a little bit easier to sense what's happening in the abdominal cavity as the diaphragm rises and falls, or I guess pushes forward and back when you're laying down. And start to notice the sensation of the exhale. That's when the diaphragm is lifting up towards your heart. And in those moments, let the hips relax really deeply. As the hips relax, you might even want to adjust the pelvis, letting the sacrum flatten. And you do naturally have an arch in the low back, which you want to keep, but you want it to be really nice and long and not too steep. And then when you've found the most relaxing position, then let go even of the breath and let yourself rest. And this is the most nourishing part of our practice, but you can only get it with all of the work that you've already done. And so release any sense of doership And let yourself be in a space of receiving and absorbing and restoring. And we'll rest here for the remainder of class. Begin noticing your natural breath. Try to feel that quality of lightness or buoyancy that we've been cultivating. Take your time making gentle movements and eventually starting to rise up as effortlessly as possible. As if that buoyant quality was just flowing through you and lifting you, and the body just follows. We'll eventually meet with our hands together at the heart. And as you take a couple of breaths towards the heart, notice any quality of lightness in the heart. Any sense of space around the heart. You can gently smile and notice how that affects this inner dimension. Thank you so much for sharing this practice. Namaste. So wonderful to be here with all of you. I hope that you feel uplifted on many levels. I always love hearing about your discoveries. Feel free to drop a word in the chat box or unmute and say hello, or just be in your restored state and go to sleep.
Thank you so much for that class, Papaya. I feel ready for bed and relaxed. But
Oh.
also kind of energized. I might also go clean my house. It's like one or the other.
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to allow whatever to happen. I just want to say, though, that I love the visualization of the diaphragm and its connection to our hips. It's like so cool to, on that exhalation and that release, feel that space in between, and like the hips start to just completely release. So that just feels awesome. Thank you.
Yay, thanks for sharing. I'm so glad it worked.
Well, it is a hard thing, you think, to feel, right? So you really have to, yeah, I mean, it's working, but to feel.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
Good to see you, Mel and Julie. And Tazara, we haven't met, but hi.
You will someday, I think. Will.
Hopefully.
Hey Mel, are you warmer now? You look really cozy and your cheeks have a really sweet little blush to them.
In a perfect state for bed. Thanks, Abaya.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we can connect on restorative yoga. As yogis that like to do too much, it's been really helpful for me. Good night.